Former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci will face justice. Dr. David Morens has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to conceal COVID-19 records.
Now, Morens worked with Fauci at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and he was accused of using his personal email to evade public record laws. An article from the Associated Press reads, quote, "The Justice Department alleges that he concealed or destroyed records of discussions related to COVID-19 research grants, including an effort to revive a controversial coronavirus grant. The indictment follows a probe by House Republicans into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic that scrutinized Morens' email communications and accused him of intentionally concealing records. In congressional testimony, Morens denied attempting to evade federal transparency laws by using his personal email.
Morens was indicted by a grand jury in April, and he faces a maximum sentence of 5 years behind bars. Well, so what he did was make it more difficult to use the public records request system, FOIA, to obtain emails and documents related to COVID origins. What did you have to hide, my friend? What were you doing there? Also, it should be noted that, let me pull up this tweet exactly. I got this from Catherine Herridge, an independent reporter. She points out that he's described as there's David Morens and then co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2 in these documents. So the question is, who are those co-conspirators? Does David Morens, can he be offered some kind of reduced sentence or no sentence in exchange for, because what we really want to know.
What you really want to hear is that the co-conspirator is Dr. Fauci. And like I said, if there is a smoking gun that points to Dr. Fauci in any way, I would love to see it, because he knows somebody that did nefarious behavior.
Gun is so hot.
No, because he knows someone that has hid their emails. This doesn't even prove that the government created COVID. This doesn't prove that COVID came from a lab. All this does is prove that this man is hiding emails. They just didn't want to tell you
anything about it.
No, this proves that he's hiding emails. It just doesn't prove that the COVID virus came from a laboratory. That's where I'm saying, like, the framing of every article I read about this on New York Post and everything was extremely aggressive, when all this proves specifically is that Morens was not using his email rights to avoid getting criticized in any way by decisions that he was making or communications that he was having, which is not appropriate to do. And yes, he should face jail time or whatever the repercussions are.
But I think we shouldn't have this. I just want answers.
Yes, no, you might just want answers, but a lot of people just want Fauci in jail. And so that's the distinct difference. I think there are a lot of people that actually do want answers. And that's what could have happened a few weeks ago when we saw the testimony or lack of testimony of Dr. Fauci in front of Rand Paul. But instead, senators decided to use that moment to let Fauci know, I would still like to see you in jail, and I'm going to do everything I can to put you in jail, as opposed to share the intel with us so we can learn and not have a disaster of this likeness ever again in this country's history. And if we do have a disaster, then we will know how to respond to it in a much better way, in the ways that we respond as far as wearing masks and other things, but also in the ways of saving lives and in the ways of not doing research that might hurt us. But because it was framed immediately as Dr. Fauci's a criminal, and I'd like to see him behind bars, Rand Paul didn't say that, but that's pretty much what he was inferring. Obviously, Dr. Fauci, guided by any lawyer, would be told to plead the fifth, because any single sentence he said on any topic that didn't match one for one what he said at a testimony would make him
So Fauci's senior advisor took steps to make it more difficult to find the emails where they had this discussion about COVID origins, said, email my Gmail, do it so that this will not be subjected to the public records process. What did he have to hide?
I have a question. Are you responsible for each thing that I do as we work at the same company? Because that's what they do. They work at the same. Are you responsible? But we work very closely.
We are co-equals.
No,
in
okay,
this project.
okay. Is our boss responsible for the decisions that I make or you make? No, right? She's not actually responsible for that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we work together, but we are individuals. And so if this man did something,
Morens worked for Fauci. Fauci was in a supervisor role. And if your emails were like, if the content of the email was, Robbie and I got to have a private conversation somewhere that you can't be subjected to what that conversation's about, people be like, oh, well, what was that?
Perhaps he was also hiding the emails from his own boss. Perhaps that's the case, right? And because we don't have specific. But he also could have been hiding it from his boss.
Okay,
but we don't have information.
You can't do that.
We need to know exactly. So he's the one who's wrong and he's the one who's in trouble. We need to know exactly what Fauci knew, we need to.
for Fauci.
I'm not covering for Fauci. I have no direct connection
have
or concern for Dr. Fauci. I have a concern that senators want to see the man in jail or want to see him held up in court for the rest of his life.
Why does it matter
because they're
to you that he
obsessed
doesn't
about
go
the
to jail?
response.
Like, why are you?
Because I think that Dr. Fauci worked alongside World Health leaders and made decisions, and everybody wants somebody to blame because it was a terrible time in our country's history that we all remember.
Were wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think that
criminal in
I
nature.
disagree wholeheartedly that there's some extreme cover-up, that Dr. Fauci really knew that this originated somewhere else and really tried his best to try to cover this up
Richard
because
Nixon
of his
was just
past.
doing his best to lead the country.
Dr. Fauci is
what
not
does
the
that
president.
mean?
He was hired by 2 different administrations to respond on how we should answer to a global pandemic. Right, so he should not be behind bars because we don't like what he did alongside the top health experts that also.
That's not
or
why
scientific
we're trying to.
experts that made
That's not
these
we're trying to
decisions.
prosecute him. We're trying to prosecute him for the origins of COVID. And you want to excuse him for that by saying, but he did such a good job running.
No, I want to tell
responding
you
to the pandemic, and so then I respond, well, actually, he didn't do a good job because the advice he gave was very, very bad. And then you go, but then that's not criminal. See how you keep moving that?
No, I want you to point to the evidence that shows. I want you to point to the evidence that shows that his lab work led to COVID.
Well, I'd like to be
and
able
you
to-
have none.
Okay.
I would like anybody to point
Because
to
David
that
Morens tried
evidence.
to hide it.
No, I'd like anybody. You're talking about someone else. I'd like to show me Dr. Fauci hiding it. I'd like to see Dr.
going
Fauci.
crazy, people.
No, I want you to really understand this because if there's evidence, then move forward. But he has said specifically when we asked him that there's no way that what he was working on in China historically turned into COVID in the future.
He said they weren't doing gain-of-function research in China at all.
We can take him at his word or not.
And he's been caught.
But if we
lying
don't
about
take
that.
him at his word, there are people that worked in the lab. Let's figure out how to get
We
those
don't need
answers.
to take him at his word because his word is a lie. It's already been demonstrated that his claim that there was no U.S.-funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, in that lab, that is a false claim. It has been proven to be false because it is gain-of-function research. He admits in his diary it's gain-of-function research. I mean, Ashish Jha, the Biden COVID advisor, said the other day, it's clear that what he told Rand Paul was not true and that we were doing gain-of-function research. Sorry, that question is not even being debated anymore. It's put to bed. We did fund gain-of-function research. What he said to Rand Paul was inaccurate.
Right,
If
so
I'm being the most charitable possible to him.
And
That's already done.
Fine.
We know that.
And he could have been a liar. He could have been anything you want to call him. But is he a criminal? We need evidence to support that because we believe in our judicial system, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't see any evidence from Rand Paul besides he doesn't like the man. And part of the reason he doesn't like him is because his response because he lied about whether he was performing research, but then also his response to COVID in general. He doesn't like that he had to wear a mask. He doesn't like that people were socially distant. He doesn't like how it affected children. A lot of people are mad about that. These are not reasons to put him in jail. So until you show me the evidence that the man is the reason that COVID started and is lying about the cover-up, is lying about the fact that it originated in a lab specifically to protect himself, then I don't really have anything for people. I don't think he should be in jail. That's why I'm arguing that point.
Highly suggestive evidence of that.
Okay, so should people go in jail because show me the proof.
The crime is lying to Congress. He did lie to Congress. That's already established. So now I guess it gets into his motivation or whether he willfully lied. He was given the opportunity, by the way, to revise that testimony and say, you know what, I misspoke. We actually did fund that research, but I don't think that research could have made COVID. And he did not correct the record. He was still maintaining that, but that's not
He
exactly
said on a technicality it's not gain-of-function
But
research, but that's what he said. So if it's technically true, then it's true.
It's
not
technically true.
This is what he said. I'm not a scientist. So I'm just saying he said that it's not gain-of-function research by definition.
But he said it in his diary that it is gain-of-function
Okay, so should we believe a Dear Diary or should we believe a scientist's word? Should we ask other scientists about this? This is what I'm saying.
Don't you find this very problematic that in front of the camera, oh no, it's not gain-of-function research. Privately, behind the scenes, in conversation with other scientists, we were funding gain-of-function.
No, I find it very, very problematic that people want to see this man in jail because he has a diary entry.
Problematic?
Because he has a diary entry.
Why is it problematic
differs.
that I would, let's say I do want to see him go to jail. It's my sincerest desire. Why is that so bad?
Because the man tried his best to try to respond to a pandemic.
Then you switch.
No, I'm not.
To the
I'm literally telling you that you asked
stuff.
why. Because people do research all the time to prevent diseases in the future.
Okay.
Research happens all the time, and crisis doesn't happen from this research all the time.
Dr. Fauci did outweighs this untruth he told about the origins of COVID. And I'm saying
based on his
disagree
diary.
with that.
So which was the untruth? The diary entry or the verbal statement?
What
That's what
he
I'm
said
saying.
before Congress.
No, we don't know that. That's what I'm
we do
saying.
know it
No, because a diary entry or what you say before Congress, like how do we know which statement is not true?
Enough scientists have now said publicly that yes, what we did in in Wuhan, China is clearly gain-of-function research for me to conclude that Fauci was accurate in his private assessments. His early fears and the fears of the scientists he talked to, who all said, man, this sure looks like something we funded.
Isn't there a better use of time, is my argument?
Now if there's a better use
No, I'm saying, is there, because I don't
know.
You don't have any evidence for Fauci to go to jail. So isn't there a better use of time to try to figure out how to avoid a pandemic like this again in the future?
Yeah, don't
because there's
how to avoid a pandemic? Put Dr. Fauci in prison.
That's not going to help us for the next go round at all.
Only because he's done. Only because he's done being in charge of anything.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just have to see where this goes, but it's not looking like it's going to go to jail.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have a coronary.
Senator Darlene Graham participated in her first debate last night, and there was one moment that didn't go over too well. That's coming up next in My Lens.